All right. Welcome back, everyone. We have another episode of the Transform Your Birth podcast. And with me today is lovely Cara and Liam. I've got a dad on the podcast. I always love having dads on the podcast because they see things very differently. We've also got little Eliza, who's about 4.5 months old. And if you can see this, you're going to see the cutest little baby. She's just delicious. Welcome, you two. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, cool. All right. Now, Cara, I had to laugh when we decided to do this podcast together and you told me that you were all lining up for an elective caesarean and then you did the Transform Your Birth course and you changed pretty dramatically. So let's start there. How you were scared of birth. Do you know much about why that was and where that fear came from?
Um, I think part of it was because I'd had quite a tricky labor, quite a tricky pregnancy,
Mhm.
um, with hyperemesis, and just being quite uncomfortable, uh, the whole time. And I think also just fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
A lot of it is, I think, to do with the fact that when you speak to people about their birth experiences, you tend to only hear the negative
Mm.
aspects, and whether or not they choose to only tell you the negative things, or whether or not it's that you manage to just retain the
Yeah.
negative the negative parts of the story. So I was holding a lot of fear. I had a lot of fear about, tearing. I really didn't want to have an instrumental labor. Um, there were a lot of things that I just was scared of. And so in my mind, the solution to that was to try and see if we could book in an elective cesarean to control it as much as possible.
Hmm.
And maybe it does come down to a bit of control as well,
Yeah.
you like you say, you can't control birth and labor, but you can influence it. And maybe I was struggling with the concept of, something was going to happen to me and my body that I couldn't necessarily control. And
Yeah.
I was trying to preemptively control it, maybe.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, good awareness. I mean, let's face it, in our day and age, we are used to being in control of a lot of things.
Mm.
And the whole idea of walking into the mystery can be very unnerving. So that led you to do the course. What was it about that experience that gave you such a big shift?
Something that I remember distinctly was when you explained how a woman in a coma can birth a baby.
Hmm.
And I remember looking at Liam thinking like, oh, well, if a woman in a coma can do it, like we could probably do it. Um, like maybe
Was
not.
that the standards were pretty low, being in a coma?
Yeah,
You reckon
yeah.
it's doable?
But it sort of made me think, well, okay, maybe I am capable of more than what I've been giving myself
Yeah.
credit for. And Liam was the whole time, in support of whatever I felt I wanted to do and needed to do with
Mm.
birth. Um, but yeah, when we did your course, that was the first thing that stood out for me. And I think then, as we progressed through Transform Your Birth, and we learned about, the non like the non what do you call it, non-physiology side of birth, so the breathing and the different techniques, and the role that the support person, um how significant their role can be in helping you through your labor. I think is what really helped me to turn my mind around, and I did a complete 180. um,
Wow.
and I sort of at that point, I guess, was sort of looking forward to, I guess you could call it a challenge, or the challenge of birth,
Mm.
um, and quite eager to labor, as naturally as I could.
Mm.
Um,
That's a
yeah.
big shift, but I love that you've brought this up because women get so many messages, both overt and covert messages about our enoughness, whether we can do these sorts of things. And there's so many messages, particularly when it comes to giving birth, that you're not going to be able to handle it, have the drugs, blah, blah.
Mm,
And that's not helpful for
mm,
many reasons. One, you could be setting that woman up to really have a reaction to the drugs if it doesn't work for her in her labor. But two,
yeah.
the real thing you need to come out of birth feeling like is if I can birth this baby, I can parent this baby. The implications of that are far beyond the birth experience itself. Mother Nature's trying to set you up to be ready to parent this baby. And
Mm,
having confidence in yourself to be able to get through the birth is what can really help you and set you up beautifully, even if you need help, even if you labor for 24 hours and end up with an epidural. All of that information that you've been able to handle, that labor, is going to be really helpful when you struggle with parenting, which we'll get to that later. I'm sure you can see the connection.
mm,
Liam, I'm curious to know how the experience of the course was for you and what shifted for you.
Yeah, I went in not knowing a lot, so I didn't sort of have too many kind of, I guess, biases about what I
Mhm.
thought we would be doing, and I didn't really know. I think that Cara was as fearful until we did the course, probably as well.
Mm,
I think you probably deep down always planned to do a natural birth, but had been influenced by everything that you see and hear and things like
mm,
that. And I think in the back of your mind, you always wanted that.
mm,
Yeah. So yeah, for me, it was, I think the biggest thing to come out of the course was understanding my role and that I can help. Whereas I think without that, I would have just gone in blind and maybe you would have naturally done the things that you teach just by chance. But I think
yeah.
if you leave it to chance, then it's probably not going to go the way you want it to. So yeah.
Mm.
mm,
Because anything can happen. So being really clear on how you can help her, and particularly if she needs help, how to continue to help her can be really helpful because we don't know what's going to happen. And I get very sad when I hear stories of partners, freaking out in the corner or
mm,
feeling as overwhelmed by birth as as she's been, because that together you're a unit, and if one person's stressed, that's contagious. So
mm,
it is important that you both get on the same page
yeah.
and both have a clear role, and of course that also sets you up beautifully for parenting as well. So you had a big shift.
Mhm.
And how did you go with the practices? Did you do the practices?
We did, yeah. So something that I think Liam probably termed it was like doing a Tracy.
Mm.
Oh, I should do a Tracy tonight. And we would
Wow.
set it up and yeah, I know.
What a compliment.
Yeah. So we would set it up on the phone, put the phone in the middle of us in bed and sort of lie down and relax and do a Tracy at the end of the day.
You'd
Well, I think
take me to bed with you.
Pretty
Wow.
much.
yeah. I
What a
think it
job.
got to a point where it wasn't even so much about practice. Cara was feeling so sick with hyperemesis that
Oh,
Mm,
we
yeah.
actually just needed it to help her
yeah.
cope, to be honest. Like
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
your anxiety and your stress levels during the pregnancy were probably as high as they are now with a 4 month old. So yeah,
It did
so it
help.
was very helpful for
Yeah.
surviving, to be honest,
Yeah.
outside of the fact that it helped with practice for the
For
birth.
birth,
Yeah.
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 And we weren't like strictly it wasn't like we had a routine with it, but it was sort of just something that naturally happened regularly for us. I think because we both felt we got a lot out of it, whether or not that was just to unwind
Mm.
or, to really hone in and focus on like practicing the breathing techniques.
Yeah.
I think it was beneficial for both of us. Yeah.
Mm. Cara,
Yeah.
I'm curious, did it help with the hyperemesis?
It definitely helped me to relax. And I guess something I struggled with is like fighting the nauseous feeling and fighting the feeling of like wanting to throw up all the time.
Mm.
Um, but then when you're really doing that relaxed, calm, slow breathing, um, it almost like resets. It resets you a little bit. So
Mm.
you're sort of feeling like you're on an 8 out of 10 and then you come back down to a 4 out of 10.
Yeah,
Um,
right.
and maybe that's just your nervous system relaxing a little bit, and so everything
Mm.
calms down, and probably a combination of that and reducing the anxiety. And I think because when I was so anxious about feeling sick, I would feel more sick.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I think it did help.
So hyperemesis is the body's reactivity and sensitivity to the pregnancy, and which means that, it's out of balance. And some women have a dreadful time with it, and it can be awful to have a continual feeling of nausea and wanting to vomit all the time.
Mm,
And the breathing and practicing the art of deep relaxation can help the body rebalance enough to potentially counteract the effects of the body, you know,
Mm.
dealing with the pregnancy. So I have heard that it can definitely help people.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you talking about that, because there might be somebody listening who's having that experience. So that can just support the whole body to go back into homeostasis, into a state of balance, and hopefully give some relief, because it can be very difficult.
Yeah, and honestly, when you feel that sick,
Mhm.
even like a little bit of relief goes a long way. So
Yeah,
it's, yeah, definitely worth it.
yeah, that's good. Now, how did things unfold for you? Your labour started a bit differently than what most labours start. Can you tell us what happened?
Yeah. So we were in bed one night, it was quite late. It was about just before midnight, on a random Wednesday. And we were due to go in to actually see the GP obstetrician the next day to discuss induction, which is something I was really not wanting to do.
Yeah.
Um, and I, I don't know if this is too much information, but I felt like a bit of a trickle. And I woke Liam up and I was like, oh, I think my waters are broken. Anyway, we both had a look and Liam said, I don't think that's wee. Because I was like, oh, I don't know if maybe I've wet myself. And Liam said, I don't think it's wee. Anyway, so I got up and lo and behold, as I sort of changed position, there was a bit of a flood, which is not what we expected to happen at all.
Mm.
You sort of hear that only happens in the movies. So I was quite surprised. And I think you were
Mm.
pretty surprised too. Yeah, it was very significant. So then at that point, Liam called the midwives at the hospital,
Mhm.
just to let them know, because they had sort of said to us, if and when your waters break, if that happens at home, call and let us know, because I guess that puts me on a timeline in a way.
Mm.
So they sort of said, okay, like it's just happened, it's early days, sort of just go back to bed, try and rest, use your TENS machine if you need to, those sorts of things. So we,
Yeah.
I guess, thought, oh, okay, it's night, we're going to have a nice sleep now, and tomorrow we'll probably spend half the day at home, just watching movies and laboring at home. And um, it did not go that way. We went back to bed. Liam put the TENS on my lower back, because I sort of had like a little bit of achy lower back pain.
Mhm.
And he fell straight back to sleep.
Bless you,
And
Liam.
then yeah, yeah, it's a skill. And then within about half an hour, I think I'd woken him up and sort of said to him, you need to download an app, a contraction timer app, because I think I'm having contractions. And so we did that, and I started to time them, and they were coming about every 4 minutes. And I thought, oh, like I must be doing it wrong, because that seems quite regular. And I've
Mhm.
only just gone into labor. Um, so I sort of lied in bed for a little bit, and I thought, it's like quite consistent. So I got up and got in the shower. And for some odd reason, I decided it was absolutely necessary that I wash and blow dry my hair.
Of
So
course. You got to look
yeah,
good
I
when
don't
you give
know
birth. That's
yeah.
better than one of my friends. One of my friends she had to get a bikini wax. She just could not
Oh
go to the
no.
hospital with, and she's
Oh,
in
it's so
full-blown
weird
labor getting a bikini
that
wax.
the things you think are essential, right, that don't matter. Yeah. So I was in the shower, and looking back now, I was definitely like in active
Mm.
labor. Like I couldn't breathe through the contractions. And I remember thinking when I was in the shower, okay, I just got to rinse the shampoo out, then I can get out. And I've just got to, trying to get to the next sort of step so I could go and sit down. And by the time I got out of the shower, I think they were coming at about every 3 minutes.
Wow.
I woke Liam up. Oh,
I might
sorry.
just stop you there. I'll just do a little bit of explaining around waters breaking. Typically on movies, that's what you see. Waters will break, and because movies like a bit of drama, and they make everything look like a rush. But most of the time, labour starts slow and it builds up over time. And I often say it's actually quite boring. So that's why the movies love to present it very differently. But
Mm.
when it does happen at the beginning, because it can happen at any time, labour waters can break at any time. And if it does happen at the beginning, When that bag of water starts to break and the fluid starts to come away, it can bring the baby's head very solidly down on the cervical door. Now, it's the pressure of the baby's head on the cervix which gives the signal to the body in terms of how much oxytocin to create. And so more pressure, more oxytocin, more intense contractions, and can be quite close together. And so Cara's comment about, I was in good active labour right from the beginning. I had exactly the same experience with my first baby as well. My contractions didn't start 10, 15, 30 minutes apart. They got very close together, and it's because of the pressure of the baby's head coming down. So it's good for people to know that we can be put off a bit by thinking, hang on, this is supposed to start slow and build up. And when it is strong like that, it can put you into active labour very, very quickly and cause people to get a bit stressed about that. But here's the upside of it. It tends to lead to shorter labours. So, yeah. So how did it progress for you? Tell us about that.
I think we went to the hospital about 3:30. The drive was rough, very rough.
Did your hair look good?
My hair looked amazing. Most important part of the labor, obviously. So we got to the hospital about 3:30, and the lovely midwives had already run the bath because I'd sort of given them a birth map in advance that was something that I was keen on doing.
Yeah.
So I think I sort of I think I got down on all fours at that point because I really wanted to be allowed to move around. That was something that was really important for me. So I felt like I needed to be on all fours so I could sort of stretch my back when I needed to and use the TENS. And I alternated between that position and in the bath, which was how I think I felt most comfortable. And we sort of did that for a little bit. And I think I got to a point where I was getting a bit tired. And I'm pretty sure, I think I asked if the midwife would check me. Did I ask her?
Yes.
Yeah, I think I was having a bit of a mind over matter moment. And I felt like I just needed to know, which I didn't think I would ask, but I did anyway. So she checked me, and I think I was 8 centimeters.
Yeah, 8 centimeters.
What time was that? About 5 a.m.
5:30. Yeah.
Which really surprised me because in my head, I remember thinking, okay, if she does this check and I'm only like 2 centimeters, I'm going to ask for an epidural or I'm going to demand a caesarean. I was having irrational thoughts at that point. But when she said 8 centimeters, I think we were both quite surprised. I remember looking at Liam being like, oh, okay, maybe we can do this.
So Liam, in that moment, tell us what you were doing to help her to find comfort in that period from when you got to the hospital. What was your job?
So
he had lots of jobs.
Yeah, I think getting in the bath was probably the right move when we got there. And for Cara, it was all about just constant reassurance. And words of affirmation was the key. And that she made a, what do you call a little piece of paper?
Sort of like a birth affirmations poster, I guess.
Right. Yeah.
So
birth
Cara
picture.
made a piece of paper with like her 6 or 7 key phrases, and, and to be honest with you, I really struggled to function well until it hit like 5 a.m. So that window from 2 a.m. till 5 a.m. I couldn't get my brain working very well just because I think just the time of day, which I didn't expect. I just thought, I'll just kick into gear and it'll be like it's the middle of the day. And I couldn't think very clearly at that time of the day for whatever reason.
And you didn't have those hormones, Liam. She's got the performance-enhancing hormones.
When we got to the hospital at like 4 a.m., I really struggled the first like 2 hours. I couldn't think of the right things to say. I didn't feel like super motivated to like get those words out, and like I felt a bit awkward and at first. I
think you were probably a bit in shock as well because we were sort of having all these conversations about preparing for induction. So we'd really gone from, looking down the barrel of induction and slow labor to like, bam, it's on. So maybe that was a bit of
very quickly.
Yeah, and then for me, as soon as like the sun came up at like 6 a.m., I felt a bit more human and a bit more alive. But the little affirmations poster that Cara had was probably the most helpful thing I had. I just had it sitting on the floor, and I just kept saying those things on repeat for the whole labor.
Yeah.
Which was, I found amazing. It worked really.
Tell us how that affected you, Cara. Give me more.
I guess it just made me feel like so held, really like supported, and kind of like we were in it together. Like he knew exactly what I wanted, and we're on the same page. And even though it was my body that was going through labor, that we were going through it together. It made me feel really reassured.
Yeah, and that's the perfect conditions, Liam, for women to be able to let go when they know they've got a partner who's totally on board, totally got their back, totally on the same page. Yeah. So you found out you're 8 centimeters. What happened then?
I think I got back in the bath, and I sort of I was quite demanding.
Good for you.
I was really into the ice chips. So Liam would try and like give me a snack, and I'd like turn my face away, and I'd be like, ice. Liam was trying to, rotate the things that I needed.
It was very hard to get food and water on board for Cara. She wasn't and that made me worry about the labor going longer. So I was pretty keen for it to keep moving, because she was, by this point, only, we'd only been going for what, 5 hours ish, when we measured 8 centimeters. And I'm like, righto, like I know in the back of my mind that 12 hours is a relatively fast labor. So if we're going to be doing this for the next 6, 7, 8, 10, 24 hours, that she was
needed some
had not taken enough on board at that point anyway. And even as it got closer, we're lucky it didn't string out much more, because you definitely hadn't had enough to drink.
Which is amazing, because when I think back, like I had no concept of time, and I had no concept of the fact that I needed hydration or energy. So it's funny, like, going into labor, I thought, oh, I'd be all over that, and I'd be asking for a snack, and I'd be saying I'm hungry and I'm tired. But in reality, I had no concept of any of that. So
because you can't think in labor, you're in a different part of your brain. That's why it's really important for partners to be all over that stuff, because women won't ask for it, because they're not rational. They're in primal brain.
So it was really helpful that I had Liam doing that for me, which was really good, because there's no way I could have done it without him. So at that point we continued on in the bath, and I think there were times where I was sort of feeling like it was very overwhelming, and I remember looking at Liam and saying, I want the epidural, and him sort of just staying calm and not really saying much, and me thinking like, oh, does he know more than I know? Like, am I closer to giving birth than I recognize? And like, I thought at a point, I was convinced that he and the midwife had like a secret conversation, and they knew
ganging up on you.
and they knew more about when the baby was coming than I did. And so that's why maybe they weren't saying, oh yeah, you can have the epidural, or a few irrational thoughts again. And then there was a shift change, and new midwife came on, and she was very, very nurturing. She did lots of lovely things, like, she put, gave Liam a break so he could go to the bathroom, which, I think he was probably very grateful for at the time, just a bit of a breather. And she stroked my hair, all those sorts of really nurturing, warm things that helped me to relax. And she ended up doing another check, and she was able to do that while I was in the bath. Sorry. I think because I asked again, and she at that point determined that I was fully dilated, and she said, like, your body is ready if you feel ready to start pushing. And I was really surprised at that point because I sort of had moments of doubt there, and I thought, oh, I don't know that I'm going to be able to do this. And so she ran me through like, okay, this is what I want you to do. And she explained, I want you to take a big deep breath in, hold your breath and bear down. And she coached me through each contraction with pushing, which was really helpful for me.
Yeah.
And so we did, when I say we, I mean, like, you know, it was me in the room plus Liam, the midwife, and a student midwife. My poor student midwife was actually unwell at the time, so it was another lovely student midwife that came in. We did that for just under 2 hours, and a lot of position changing in the bath, trying to sort of open up my pelvis. You know, they had the torch, like looking with each sort of contraction just to see what was happening, but there was no crowning. And then I had specified in my birth plan, or my birth sort of map, that I wanted help to protect my perineum.
Yeah.
And so in the morning, when the obstetricians came on to shift, one of them popped their head in and said, oh, look, like, been in the bath for a while, not much is happening. If you want me to sort of have a look, and we can get you out onto the bed, and I can help protect your perineum, but it's up to you. You can stay in the bath. And I think at that point I was ready for a position change. I sort of just needed to move. So I decided to get up. And as I stood up and sort of had one leg half out of the bath, holding on to Liam, I felt a contraction come on. And I remember saying I think I was probably yelling it at the midwife at that point, like, I can't stop my body pushing. My body's pushing. And it really felt like it's sort of weird. I felt it was a bit of an out of body experience. I didn't feel like I was in control. I felt like my body was in control.
Yeah.
And I could not stop my uterus from contracting and pushing, trying to push the baby out. And so as I stepped out of the bath, her head was born. It was very, very quick.
Wow.
Yeah. And in that moment, as her head was being born, I think the obstetrician sort of got down underneath me to sort of just brace and help sort of protect, because I was sort of half standing, half being
Yeah.
held onto. And then so once her head was out, I remember looking down thinking, oh my God, like, we're doing this. And the midwife said, one more push. And I pushed, and her body was born. And they caught her and brought her up to my front, because it was just a bit hard for me to catch her in the position that I was standing in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think in that moment I was quite shocked, because I really did not think that she was going to be born standing up, let alone in 1-2 pushes.
It
Even though
must have been just the adjustment in your pelvis and her navigating her way through that helped her to drop down, because you hadn't had a head-on view up until that point, and just
that's right.
that sense of I need to move position can be really important when we have women stuck on beds trying to push, trying to push, trying to push, and nothing's happening, and next minute doctors are talking about an instrumental delivery without trying different positions. That's a real waste of a resource right there. Being able to, I remember a midwife once, a home birth midwife, talking about a mother who was having quite a big baby and it just wasn't coming down. And she got her to stand up and shimmy and shake her hips. And it was the loosening of the hips that helped the baby to start to come down. And then she got that really clear urge to bear down. So it is important that we use that second stage as an opportunity to find the right position, and potentially moving positions during second stage in order to help the baby navigate its way through the pelvis. So that's probably what happened. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think so. I remember feeling like just that movement of standing up and lifting my leg over the side of the bath made a lot of movement happen very, very quickly.
Yeah.
So maybe that's just, I just needed to shift my pelvis a tiny bit, and she was like,
She was on her way. Wow. And so what was
Yeah.
it like when you met her?
Oh, it was incredible. I was sort of in disbelief. Like, I sort of, I think I hadn't realized, but up until that point where she was in my arms, I think there was still a small part of me that felt like, I could never imagine myself giving birth. And
Mhm.
because we had gone through a couple of years of, infertility and trouble getting pregnant, there was a lot of self-doubt. And
Right.
so I think until that moment when I held her, there was a small part, a fraction of me that still thought it wasn't going to happen.
Mhm.
And when I held her, it was like the most magical feeling, like we did it. Like she's here. I couldn't believe that we'd actually brought our little baby into the world. And I looked at Liam
Wow.
and we both burst into tears.
Oh, honey.
Um,
Oh my goodness. I'm getting
yeah.
goosebumps.
And seeing him in that moment,
Mm.
like, it was really beautiful. And um I think she made like a few little squeaks and squeals, but not too much. And then the midwife said, "Oh, do you want to know what it is?" And we sort of both were like, "Oh, totally irrelevant at this point. We don't care," kind of thing. Um, and we said, "Yeah." And the midwife said, "Oh, it's a little girl." And I was convinced that we were having a boy.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, "What?" But Liam had felt the whole pregnancy that it was going to be a little girl, so
Uh,
it was quite sweet. Uh, yeah, so that was a very surreal moment,
mm.
I think, for both of us.
I'd
Yeah.
like to hear Liam's version of it. He's gone off to deal with Eliza. But
Yeah, sorry.
no, that's okay. I'd love to know, Cara, because you did such a big shift in your thinking. How do you think your experience of birth set you up for parenting?
Ooh, I think to be completely honest, recognizing that my body and maybe I can do harder things than what I'd previously given myself credit for.
Mm,
It goes a long way
yeah,
for, I guess, your confidence. Like I, you still have days where you feel so unsure about your decisions as a first time parent,
yeah,
but then recognizing that, I went from feeling like there was no way I could bring my child into the world using just me and my body and those sort of resources to doing that. And so now, okay, maybe even though some days feel really, really hard and confusing, if I can bring her into the world, then maybe Liam and I is all she needs. And we can get through it, whatever it is that life throws at us now. Um, which might sound a little bit, cliche, but it's true. When they're little, they don't need much.
mm,
They need you to love them. They need their basic needs met. And one of the biggest things I think I can do for her is to be present, um, to learn from her, about what she needs rather than look externally, which is something I probably do more than I'd like to admit still.
mm,
Um, but really trusting that the bond I'm building with her and that the relationship we have is all I need and all we need to sort of figure out and fumble our way through.
yeah,
um, yeah, yeah, which is helping me to slowly build more confidence with, recognizing that, yeah, there's all these resources on the internet and you can sign up to sleep training and lots of different things. But the reality is that if I sort of hone into her cues and really listen to what she's sort of giving off and what she's trying to tell me, then it probably is going to work out a little bit better than what I think. And trusting that it's a process and that it takes time.
yeah. I think what you've described really, really well is the journey or the transition into parenthood. And if you look at Mother Nature's blueprint, she wants you to discover that you're much more than what you think. And if you can go through something as intense as labor, even if you need help, even if you end up with a cesarean, all of those are very, they're just another version of birth. But it is an intense journey. I don't care what ends up happening, there's always an
Mm,
intensity that's designed to wake you up to your capacity to be the mother, to going from the
mm,
woman to the mother. And then that flows through onto parenting in that the answers to the baby are in the baby, they're not in
mm,
Google.
mm,
And sometimes women, when they're pregnant, they think, oh, I'll just have a cesarean and that's the answer to all things birth, or I'll have an epidural and that's the answer to all things birth. And that's a little bit like looking outside of yourself for answers rather than discovering what you've got inside of yourself first, starting there. And then sometimes we need help and sometimes we need those things. But most of the time, I believe, we don't need those things. Women can deal with birth, but if there is a bit of complexity or it's a really long labor, then those things have their place. But if we can learn to trust ourselves through the birth process, that translates into parenting, and you're less likely to get caught in the trap of looking on Google for answers rather than attuning and connecting with your baby. And I think you just really described that well. And I hope the people listening really appreciate that birth actually matters. We can try to bypass it. And, you know, for some women, that's okay. If it's just too much or there's a history there and she wants to find a way to navigate her way, that's absolutely appropriate. I don't judge any woman's choices around this stuff. At the end of the day, though, the journey is a struggle. And what you don't learn in birth, you sure as hell learn in parenting. So you might as well get on board with Mother Nature's plans for you from the beginning and do enough prep to give you the confidence, which is what happened with Cara, to really start to see, well, maybe I can do this because it has an impact. It's not just the birth. It's a pathway that you're walking. Yeah.
Yeah.
What did you learn about yourself, Cara?
Oh, I think you sort of summed it up there. I think I learned that um, probably I'm stronger than what I realized, or what I had previously realized. And with self-doubt like I was just always so unsure of, how am I going to get through the rest of this pregnancy feeling so sick? And then how am I going to get through the labor? And then how am I going to parent? And I think what I've learned is that just because I've got a little bit of self-doubt doesn't mean that I'm any less capable. If I can just sort of see through that fog, and sort of try and quieten down those noises, everything makes a little bit more sense. And just trust my instincts more. Definitely. I never ever thought that I'd be able to birth a baby, and here I am. So I guess trusting myself, I feel a lot stronger. I've also learned that, I'm well, I guess I already knew, I was grateful for Liam, but it goes a long way, and it makes such a difference when you have a good support system around you. And I'm so grateful to have that in Liam. I don't know that I would have made it through without him.
Yeah. I love to hear that. That's a beautiful.
He really was, a pillar of strength, but also very raw with his emotions as well, which I think it was good for me, because it sort of validated that, like, there's a lot of big feelings, and it's okay to have big feelings through pregnancy and birth and postpartum. And you just got to feel the feelings. Yeah.
Wow, that's just beautiful. Oh my goodness, I love this job. I love to watch people make that transition. That's why I never get bored with it. And the podcast opportunities of listening to people's stories helps me and those listening to understand how to follow this path and the significance of this path, because it's not just about when the first contraction starts or the birth starts and the birth finishes. It's part of a long line of transformation and readiness to take on what these children, these precious, precious children that we bring into the world, the next generation, what they require from us. And we've got to grow. It's inevitable. We've got to grow. We've got to mature. We've got to step up. We've got to start to discover what we've got inside of ourselves. And I always make the comment, you don't learn that sitting on the couch watching Netflix, which is a damn shame. We'd all be amazing.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to get pushed to your limits in order to do that. And by the way, my darlings, your babies continue to push you to your limits, and your children do, and your teenagers do.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing being a parent, because you cannot avoid the growth that's inherent to that pathway. Amazing, absolutely amazing. Cara, I just might go a little bit further with you because Cara's been a part of our new parents groups, and we've been working with the Thriving as a New Parents group, helping new mothers in my group to really make that transition. What sort of things have you picked up in that experience that you think will be helpful for a pregnant woman listening to this?
Oh, just showing up each week, knowing that you're going to be surrounded by like-minded people in similar situations, and you just feel so heard and so understood. Well, that's how I feel coming to the group.
Yeah.
And I really, it's like, it's almost like the highlight of the week for me. And I guess because, everyone chooses to be there, everyone chooses to show up. And everyone has been so honest in sharing their experiences, and it makes you feel like, it's okay to have days where you feel like you've got no idea what's going on, because it's definitely happening to the person next door as well. I think with parenting, you can often feel quite isolated, especially, if you're on social media, things always look so positive on social media.
Glossy. Mm.
Yeah, positive and glossy. And, the grass is always greener on the other side. And you're only seeing like the 5% of what's going on. So coming to the group and having raw, honest conversations with other parents in that really safe environment, it's really helped me to recognize that, okay, actually, I'm not doing a bad job. Parenting is hard.
Yeah.
It's also beautiful, and there's a lot of shared experience and a lot of shared knowledge in the group as well. So it's nice sort of just hearing like, oh, I did this and this worked for my baby, and I think, oh, maybe I'll give that a go. Like anecdotal stuff is always helpful as well. Yeah, it's just it's a really nice safe space. Yeah,
We
and
do.
it's also, each week having sort of like a different theme and a different topic to discuss. It's almost like a bit of a mental break, a bit of a restart for the week, rather than just going from thinking, okay, what time did the baby last feed and sleep and nappy and la la la. You sort of put a break in the system there, have a think about something else for a little while. And yes, it's maybe relationship or identity or parenting related, but it's giving yourself an opportunity to really have some constructive thoughts about something a little bit different for a while, and how that might shape your next week or your next month as a parent. And yeah, I really enjoy that.
Thank you for sharing that. I wanted to share that to the wider audience because the next journey is where the rubber hits the road, and finding good, safe places where we can, like you said, parenting is hard, but it's a lot of things. We can explore that path and looking at the themes, and it focuses more on the parents than it does on the baby, which is very different to the maternal and child health nurses where they're educating you about your baby, which is good too. But these types of gatherings do a lot to bring a much greater meaning and significance to what it is that you're going through. So thank you for sharing that. And I'd encourage anybody to look at potential parenting groups. If you're in Canberra, you've got the Thriving as a New Parent groups, and there's a few facilitators here doing it. In other places, look around, you'll find some women's circles that focus in this, and it's a beautiful thing to do. Well, Cara's birth has filled with lots of great wisdom. She had to do a big 180 in her thinking to start to believe in herself. Her waters broke at the beginning, and she was expecting a long road, and she got a very efficient labour.
Yeah.
She got to the edge of herself a couple of times where she thought, oh, I don't know about this, but discovered, fortunately, that she was at the end, and she was in that period called transition. She did a beautiful job of pushing that baby out and talked a bit about the changing of positions in second stage. And I think Cara's story tells us a lot about that. How you think about birth will influence how you're able to surrender on the day and let go and let your body do what it knows how to do. So working with mindset is a really important thing. And I think the other very powerful message of Cara and Liam's story is the power that Liam had in that room to really step up, share the load so Cara could let go. She doesn't believe she could do it without him. And isn't that a beautiful way to start your parenting journey together, where you both feel significant, which many times in birth, partners don't feel significant at all, and they can feel very overwhelmed by birth. So lots of great wisdom shared in that story. And I want to thank Cara and Liam and little Eliza. Liam's off dealing with Eliza now, but thank them for sharing their story. Thanks, Cara.
Thank you so much for having us, Tracy.
Okay, see ya.